Rain pounded Main Street in Riverside, a sprawling American city where gleaming skyscrapers cast long shadows over crumbling slums. Claire Dawson, a 21-year-old med student, trudged through the storm, her delivery bag soaked to the bone. Water dripped from her dark hair into her eyes, but she kept moving, her sneakers squishing against the pavement. She had to finish this last delivery, get the cash, and head home before her mother lost it again. Janice Dawson never tolerated delays, not when there were bills to pay and debts to settle. Claire sighed, her breath visible in the chilly air, dreaming of the day she could escape the chaos of her life and focus on becoming a doctor. Then it happened. A deafening screech cut through the rain, followed by a sickening crunch. Claire froze as a black SUV skidded across the wet asphalt, slamming into a streetlight just yards ahead. The vehicle flipped onto its side, glass shattering across the road. For a moment, she stood there, heart pounding, rain blurring her vision. But instinct kicked in. She dropped her bag and ran toward the wreck, her hands trembling as she reached the driver's side. The door was jammed, but she could see a man inside, slumped over the steering wheel, blood streaking his face. He wasn't moving. Claire yanked at the handle, her finger slipping on the wet metal. Come on, she muttered, adrenaline surging. Finally, the door gave way with a groan. She leaned in, unbuckling the man's seatbelt and pulling him free. He was heavy, his expensive suit soaked with rain and blood, but she dragged him onto the pavement, away from the smoking car. Thunder rumbled as she checked his pulse. Faint, but there. She fumbled for her phone, dialing 911 with shaky hands. "Hello, there's been an accident on Main Street near Oak Avenue," she shouted over the storm. "He's hurt, bad, please hurry." As sirens wailed in the distance, Claire stayed by his side, pressing her jacket against a gash on his forehead. "Stay with me," she whispered, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her chest. She didn't know who he was, only that he needed her. Minutes later, paramedics arrived, taking over as she stepped back, drenched and shivering. They loaded him onto a stretcher, and just before they closed the ambulance doors, his eyes fluttered open. For a split second, their gazes locked, his gray eyes piercing through the haze. Then he was gone, whisked away into the night. Claire stood there, rain washing the blood from her hands, until a cop tapped her shoulder. "You okay, miss?" he asked. She nodded, too numb to speak, and grabbed her soggy delivery bag. She had to get home. The walk back to the slums felt endless, her mind replaying the crash. Who was that guy? Why did he look at her like that? She shook it off, pushing open the creaky door to her family's rundown apartment. Janice was sprawled on the couch, a half-empty bottle of whiskey in hand, the TV blaring some late-night game show. "Where's my money?" Janice slurred, barely glancing up. Claire pulled a crumpled $10 bill from her pocket and tossed it onto the coffee table. "That's it?" Janice snapped, sitting up. "You're useless, Claire. No wonder your dad left us." Claire clenched her fists, biting back a retort. She'd heard it all before. Janice lived off gambling and guilt trips, always blaming Claire for their troubles. "You're working Tyler's bar tomorrow," Janice added, her voice hard. "We need cash, and you're not wasting time on that fancy school unless you pay for it." Claire didn't argue. She couldn't. Janice held her birth certificate, her ID, everything she needed to stay in med school. One wrong move, and her dreams were done. She trudged to her tiny room, collapsing onto the mattress. Outside, the rain slowed to a drizzle, but the storm inside her raged on. She didn't know that across town, in a pristine hospital room, the man she'd saved was waking up. Grayson Pierce opened his eyes to sterile white walls and the steady beep of machines. Pain throbbed in his skull, but he was alive. His last memory was the crash, the rain, and a girl with wet hair pulling him free. Who was she? He turned his head, wincing, as his assistant, Derek Walsh, stepped into the room. "Boss, you're awake," Derek said, relief in his voice. "You scared us." Grayson's mother, Evelyn Pierce, followed, her elegant coat dripping from the storm. "My boy," she murmured, brushing his hair back. "We thought we'd lost you." "What happened?" Grayson rasped, his throat dry. "Car accident," Derek replied. "Some girl pulled you out, called for help. She's the only reason you're here." Grayson frowned. that fleeting image of her flashing in his mind, her dark eyes, her soaked figure against the rain. "Find her," he said, his voice firm despite the pain. "She saved my life." Derek nodded, already pulling out his phone. "We'll track her down, boss." By morning, Riverside buzzed with rumors. The headlines screamed. Grayson Pierce, heir to Pierce Enterprises, injured in crash, future of billion-dollar empire in question. The papers didn't know the half of it. Grayson had taken over the company just months ago after his father's sudden death, and at 29 he was still proving himself to a skeptical board. The accident only fueled whispers, but he didn't care about that now. He cared about her, the stranger who'd risked everything for him. Back in the slums, Claire woke to Janice pounding on her door. "Get up, lazy girl," she barked. "Tyler's expecting you at the bar tonight." Claire rubbed her eyes, the events of last night feeling like a dream. She didn't tell Janice about the crash. It wouldn't matter anyway. She pulled on a worn jacket and headed out, the weight of her life pressing down. She had no idea that Grayson's team was already combing the city, piecing together witness reports from Main Street. "A delivery girl," they said. "Young, dark hair, brave as hell." As Claire stepped into the gray daylight, Grayson sat up in his hospital bed, staring out at the skyline. "I'll find you," he thought, a quiet promise to the girl he didn't even know. Their lives had collided in that rain-soaked moment, and though neither realized it yet, nothing would ever be the same. Days later, Claire stood behind the bar at Tyler's dingy joint on the edge of Riverside slums. The air stank of stale beer and cigarette smoke, the neon lights buzzing overhead as she wiped down sticky tables. Her brother Tyler leaned against the counter, counting cash from the night's take, his eyes flicking to her every few minutes. "Keep moving, Claire," he grunted. "These guys don't tip slow pokes." She nodded silently, her arms aching from hours of work. The crash from a few nights ago lingered in her mind, but she pushed it down. No time for daydreams when Janice was waiting for money. The crowd grew rowdier as the night wore on. A group of bikers in leather jackets filled the booths, their laughter loud and crude. One of them, a hulking guy with a scarred face, caught Claire's eye as she passed with a tray of drinks. "Hey, sweetheart," he slurred, grabbing her wrist. "How about you join me out back?" Claire yanked her arm free, heart racing. "Let go," she said, her voice shook. The man laughed, standing up, his bulk towering over her. Before she could back away, he lunged, dragging her toward the shadowy rear exit. Panic surged through her, but then a figure stepped in. Grayson Pierce, dressed in a dark coat, his presence cutting through the chaos like a blade. He'd come to the bar on a tip from Derek, chasing rumors of a delivery girl working nights. Now, seeing Claire in danger, his gray eyes blazed. "Let her go," he said, his voice low and commanding. The biker sneered, squaring up, but Grayson moved fast, shoving him hard against the wall. The guy crumpled, clutching his chest, and the others backed off, muttering. "You okay?" Grayson asked, turning to Claire. She nodded, trembling, her breath uneven. He studied her for a moment, recognition flickering in his gaze. "It's you," he murmured, almost to himself. "The girl from the crash." Claire frowned, confused, but before she could ask, he took her arm gently. "You're not safe here. Come with me." She hesitated, glancing at Tyler, who just shrugged, too busy with his cash to care. Against her better judgment, she followed Grayson out into the cool night air. He led her to his sleek black car, parked under a flickering streetlight. The drive was quiet, the city lights streaking past as they headed downtown. "Where are we going?" Claire finally asked, her voice small. "My place," Grayson replied. "You need somewhere safe tonight." She didn't argue. Home meant Janice's wrath, and she was too tired to face it. They arrived at his penthouse, a towering glass oasis overlooking Riverside. Claire stepped inside, awestruck by the polished floors and sprawling views, so different from her cramped apartment. "Sit," Grayson said, gesturing to a plush sofa. She sank into it, still damp from the bar's grime, feeling out of place. He poured her a glass of water, sitting across from her. "Why were you there?" he asked. Claire sighed, staring at the glass. "My mom, she makes me work for Tyler. She gambles, owes people money. If I don't bring cash, she won't let me stay in school. She keeps my papers, my ID, Everything. Grayson's jaw tightened, a flicker of anger in his eyes. "That's not right," he said softly. "Tell me about you." Claire hesitated, then spoke. "I'm in med school, or trying to be. I want to help people, save lives," her voice cracked. "But I'm stuck." Grayson leaned forward, his gaze steady. "You saved mine," he said. "That night in the rain, I'd be dead without you." Claire blinked, the pieces clicking. "You're that guy?" He nodded, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "I've been looking for you." She looked away, overwhelmed, unsure what to say. The night stretched on, their conversation easing into something almost comfortable. But then it happened. Claire's head spun, a strange heat creeping through her. She'd sipped water at the bar earlier, handed to her by a stranger Tyler knew. Unknown to her, it was laced with something. A plot by one of Grayson's business rivals to destabilize him. Now, in his penthouse, the drug took hold. She stumbled, clutching the sofa. "I feel weird," she mumbled, her vision blurring. Grayson caught her as she swayed, concern etching his face. "What's wrong?" he asked, but she couldn't answer. Her hands moved on their own, pulling him closer, her judgment drowned in a haze. Grayson tried to steady her, but the air shifted, charged with something neither could stop. They fell into each other, a tangle of desperation and confusion, the night blurring into a reckless blur. When morning came, Claire woke on his bed, sheets twisted around her, horror sinking in. She bolted upright, staring at Grayson asleep beside her. "Oh no," she whispered, hands shaking. "I slept with a stranger, a guy I don't even know." She grabbed her clothes, fleeing the penthouse before he stirred. The streets of Riverside greeted her with cold indifference as she ran, tears mixing with the dawn mist. Back home, Janice was passed out on the couch, oblivious. Claire hid in her room, guilt gnawing at her. What had she done? She couldn't face it, couldn't face him. Weeks passed, and the truth hit harder. Nausea gripped her, then a test confirmed it. She was pregnant, carrying twins. Terror seized her. If Janice found out, she'd kill her. Meanwhile, Grayson couldn't shake Claire from his mind. That night had been a mistake, but not the way she thought. He'd felt something real, something he hadn't in years. Derek tracked her down, finding her name through delivery records tied to Main Street. "She's working at that bar again," Derek reported. Grayson's fists clenched. "She's in trouble, isn't she?" He headed out that night, determined to find her. At the bar, Claire moved like a ghost, serving drinks under Tyler's glare. The crowd was loud, but she barely noticed, lost in her fears. Then the door swung open and Grayson walked in. Their eyes met across the smoky room, her heart lurching. He strode toward her, pushing past the drunks. "You're coming with me," he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Why?" she asked, voice trembling. "Because no one treats you like this," he replied. "Not on my watch." Claire followed him out, her world tilting again. In his car, she stared at her hands, the silence heavy. "I'm pregnant," she blurted, tears spilling. "Twins! It's yours." Grayson pulled over, turning to her, his expression unreadable. Then he softened, taking her hand. "Those kids are mine too," he said. "You're not alone anymore." She looked at him, hope flickering through her dread. For the first time, she felt seen. Back at the penthouse, he settled her on the sofa, a blanket around her shoulders. "We'll figure this out," he promised. Claire nodded, exhaustion pulling her under. As she drifted off, Grayson watched her, a quiet resolve settling in. He'd protect her, no matter what came next. But across town, Janice woke to an empty apartment, her bleary eyes narrowing. Claire hadn't come home with cash. She'd make her pay for that. In Grayson's penthouse, Claire sat nervously on the plush sofa, a blanket draped over her shoulders as she clutched a mug of tea. Grayson knelt before her, his gray eyes steady. "You and these babies, they're my family now," he said, his voice firm yet gentle. Claire's breath caught, the weight of his words sinking in. She'd never had anyone fight for her before. The door swung open, and Evelyn Pierce swept in, her elegant heels clicking on the marble floor. She stopped short, taking in Claire's fragile frame, then broke into a radiant smile. "My dear," she exclaimed, rushing forward to clasp Claire's hands. "The Pierce legacy lives on. Welcome to our home." Claire managed a shy nod, overwhelmed by Evelyn's warmth. For a moment she let herself believe this could be real, a life beyond Janice's grip. But across town, in the dim light of their rundown apartment, Janice smirked over a glass of cheap whiskey. "That rich guy knocked her up?" she muttered, her mind spinning. Time to cash in. She grabbed her phone, dialing Tyler. "Get ready," she said. "We're squeezing that Pierce boy for everything he's got." Days later, Clara settled into the penthouse, Grayson insisting she stay. "You're not going back to that hellhole," he told her, his tone final. She didn't argue, too tired to resist the safety he offered. But trouble brewed. Janice showed up at the Pierce Enterprises tower downtown, demanding to see Grayson. "I'm the mother of your little girlfriend," she barked at the security guard. "Let me in." Without an appointment, she was turned away, but not before she yelled for all to hear. "He got my Claire pregnant, and he's dodging us." Word reached Grayson in his sleek office, his jaw tightening as Derek relayed the scene. "She's trouble, boss," Derek warned. Grayson nodded, his mind already on Claire. "Keep her out," he ordered. "She doesn't get near Claire." But Janice wasn't done. She'd cornered Claire on her way to a med school class, grabbing her arm in the parking lot. "You think you're too good for us now?" Janice hissed. "I've got a guy, Raymond Holt, willing to pay 50 grand to have you on his arm. You're meeting him tonight." Claire pulled free, panic rising. "I'm not some prize to sell," she said, her voice shaking. Janice laughed, cold and bitter. "You're whatever I say you are. I've got your ID, your papers. You're nothing without me." Claire ran, tears stinging her eyes, straight back to Grayson. He found her trembling in the penthouse, her story spilling out between sobs. Grayson's fists clenched, fury darkening his features. "She's not touching you," he vowed, pulling her close. "I'll handle this." That night, Grayson tracked Janice to Tyler's bar, where she'd arranged to meet Raymond Holt, a sleazy businessman with a taste for power. Grayson strode in, his presence silencing the room. Janice smirked, leaning against Raymond. "Here's the big shot," she said. 50 grand, and she's yours, Holt." Raymond grinned, eyeing Grayson like a rival. "She's a pretty thing," he said. "I'll take her." Grayson stepped forward, his voice icy. "Claire's not for sale. Back off or you'll regret it." Raymond laughed, but something in Grayson's stare made him falter. He slunk away, muttering excuses, leaving Janice fuming. "You've ruined it," she spat at Grayson. He didn't flinch. "Stay away from her," he warned, "or I'll make sure you lose more than money." Janice stormed out, but her greed only grew. She wasn't letting Claire go that easily. Meanwhile, a new threat emerged. Vanessa Reed, Claire's med school classmate and the adopted daughter of the wealthy Reed family, watched from the shadows. She'd always envied Claire's quiet strength, and now, seeing her with Grayson, jealousy consumed her. Vanessa had overheard Derek talking about Grayson's search for his rescuer. She saw her chance. Cornering Grayson outside his office, she spun her lie. "I saved you that night," she said, her voice smooth. "I was there, pulled you from the wreck." Grayson narrowed his eyes, unconvinced. "I'd remember you," he said. "You're not her." Vanessa pressed on, desperate. "I know things, details Derek let slip. You wore a gray suit, right?" He stared at her, cold and calculating. "You're lying," he said finally. "Get out." She left, humiliated, but her hatred for Claire deepened. Vanessa's next move was ruthless. She tracked Janice down, slipping her a thick envelope of cash, $100,000. "Make Claire disappear," she whispered. "I want her gone from Grayson's life." Janice grinned, pocketing the money. "Easy enough," she said. She lured Claire out with a fake plea. "Tyler's sick," she lied over the phone. "Come home, just for an hour." Claire, torn but worried, agreed, slipping out while Grayson was at a meeting. At the apartment, Janice locked the door behind Claire, her smile gone. "You're not going back to him," she said. "Vanessa's paying big, and I'm done with you." Before Claire could react, Janice shoved her toward the street where a car waited. It screeched forward, aiming to clip her. A staged accident to scare her off, or worse. Claire stumbled, falling hard, her hands shielding her belly. Pain shot through her, but the car swerved at the last second, missing her by inches. Grayson arrived just then, his car roaring up the block. He'd sensed something off when Claire didn't answer his calls, rushing over with Derek. He leapt out, running to her side as she clutched her stomach, gasping. "You're safe now," he said, lifting her gently. "I swear it." He glared at Janice, who shrank back, clutching her cash. "What did you do?" he demanded. She stammered, but he didn't wait for an answer, carrying Claire to his car. At the hospital, doctors checked her over. "The twins are fine," they said, "but she needs rest." "She's lucky." Claire lay in the sterile bed, Grayson at her side, his hand gripping hers. "I should have known," she whispered, tears falling. "My own mom." He brushed her hair back, his touch soft. "She doesn't deserve you," he said. "You're with me now." As she rested, Grayson's gaze fell on the silver star pendant around her neck, glinting under the fluorescent lights. His mother Evelyn had lost one just like it years ago, a keepsake from a daughter stolen at birth. "Wait," he murmured, a suspicion forming. Could she be? Across town, Vanessa paced her lavish apartment, fury boiling. Her plan had failed, and Grayson was closer to Claire than ever. She'd heard whispers from her adoptive parents about a lost child, a girl with a necklace like that. No, she thought, clenching her fists. It can't be her. She'd do anything to keep Claire from taking her place. At the hospital, Grayson sat silently, piecing it together. The necklace, the crash, Claire's strength. It all fit. He squeezed her hand, resolve hardening. Whatever came next, he'd face it with her. As Claire rested in the hospital bed, Grayson held her hand, his thumb tracing the edge of her silver star pendant. The dim fluorescent lights cast a soft glow over her pale face, her breathing steady now after the ordeal. He couldn't shake the thought nagging at him. "My mom lost one just like this years ago," he whispered, almost to himself. Across town, Vanessa paced her lavish apartment, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. She'd failed to get rid of Claire, and now Grayson's protectiveness only fueled her rage. She's not their real daughter. Not now, she thought, clenching her fists. It can't be her. Grayson stayed by Claire's side through the night, his mind racing. The necklace wasn't just a coincidence. He'd heard Evelyn talk about it, a keepsake made for a baby girl stolen from the hospital decades ago, swapped in a moment of chaos. Could Claire be that child? He kissed her forehead gently, stepping out to call Derek. "Dig into the Reed family records," he said, voice low. "Check births from 21 years ago, anything tied to Riverside General. I need answers." Derek promised to get on it, and Grayson returned to Claire, watching her sleep. Whatever the truth, he'd protect her. Morning brought clarity. Claire woke, her eyes finding Grayson's. "I'm okay," she said softly, squeezing his hand. "Thanks to you." He smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You're tougher than you think," he replied. The doctor came in, clipboard in hand. "She's stable," he said. "The twins too. Bed rest for a few days, then she's good to go." Claire nodded, relief washing over her. But Grayson's focus shifted as Derek texted, "Got something, boss. Meet me at the office." Leaving Claire with a nurse, Grayson drove downtown, his sleek car cutting through Riverside's morning traffic. Derek waited in the Pierce Enterprises boardroom, files spread across the table. "Look at this," he said, sliding a document forward. "Riverside General, 21 years back. The Reeds had a daughter born the same day as Janice Dawson's kid. Records show a mix-up. Babies switched in the nursery. The Reeds girl had a star pendant, a gift from her mom." Grayson's pulse quickened. "And Janice?" he asked. Derek frowned. "She left with a baby, no questions asked. Probably didn't even know." Grayson stared at the papers, the truth clicking into place. Claire was the Reeds' real daughter, taken by Janice all those years ago. Vanessa, their adopted child, must have known, he realized. That's why she'd targeted Claire so fiercely. He grabbed his phone, calling Evelyn. "Mom, get to the hospital," he said. "Bring the Reeds, we've got something big." Evelyn didn't hesitate, sensing the urgency in his voice. At the hospital, Claire sat up as Evelyn arrived, flanked by the Reeds, a polished couple in their 50s. Vanessa trailed behind, her face tight with unease. "What's going on?" Claire asked, confused. Grayson took her hand, steadying her. "Just listen," he said. Evelyn stepped forward, holding an old photo of a tiny pendant identical to Claire's. "My girl wore this," she said, voice trembling. "We lost her at birth, or so we thought." Mrs. Reed gasped, reaching for Claire's necklace. "That's ours," she whispered. "Our daughter." Vanessa paled, stepping back. "No," she snapped. "This is nonsense. She's a nobody." Grayson turned on her, his voice cold. "You knew, didn't you? You've been after her since you found out." Vanessa stammered, but Mr. Reed cut in, his face hard. "Explain yourself," he demanded. She broke, tears spilling. "I knew in high school," she admitted. "I saw the records, figured it out. I didn't want her taking my place." The Reeds stared, horrified. "You tried to hurt her," Mrs. Reed said, voice shaking. "Our real daughter." Claire sat frozen, the words sinking in. "I'm your daughter?" she asked, looking at the Reeds. Mrs. Reed nodded, tears falling as she pulled Claire into a hug. "We never stopped looking for you," she said. "Janice stole you from us." Grayson stood by Claire, his arm around her shoulders. "She's safe now," he told them, "but Vanessa's not done." Mrs. Reed turned to Vanessa, her voice firm. "You're not our daughter anymore. Leave Riverside, and don't come back." Vanessa fled, her world crumbling, while the Reeds clung to Claire, overwhelmed by the reunion. Grayson watched, a quiet pride in his chest. But Janice wasn't finished either. She stormed the hospital later that day, having heard rumors of Claire's new status. "You owe me," she yelled, barging into the room. "I raised you and now you're some rich kid?" Grayson stepped in her path, towering over her. "You didn't raise her," he said. "You used her." She tried one last ploy. "Tyler's dying," she lied. "Give me $1 million to save him, or you're heartless." Grayson didn't flinch. He'd had Derek check. "Tyler's fine," he said. "Just a cold. You're done here." Janice lunged, clawing at Claire, but security dragged her out, her screams echoing down the hall. She was gone for good, her grip on Claire broken. The room settled, the Reeds and Evelyn gathering around Claire, their love a shield against the past. Grayson knelt beside her, taking her hand. "You're free now," he said. She smiled through tears, leaning into him. "Because of you," she whispered. That night, in the quiet of the penthouse, Grayson brought Claire a tray of food. Sitting beside her on the sofa, the city sparkled beyond the windows, a new beginning stretching out. He pulled a small box from his pocket, opening it to reveal a simple ring, a single diamond catching the light. "Claire," he said, voice soft but sure, "you're my everything. Marry me?" Her breath hitched, tears welling again, but this time from joy. "Yes, Grayson," she said, throwing her arms around him. He slipped the ring on her finger, sealing their promise. Evelyn burst in moments later, clapping her hands. "A wedding!" she exclaimed. "We'll make it perfect." The Reeds followed, their smiles wide. "We've got our girl back," Mr. Reed said, "and now a son-in-law, too." Claire laughed, the sound light and free, a stark contrast to the weight she'd carried so long. Grayson pulled her close, whispering, "We're a family now." She nodded, resting against him, the future bright ahead. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows of the Pierce estate, casting golden patterns across the polished floors. Claire stood in the center of the grand hall, her flowing white gown shimmering as she turned to face Grayson. He stood beside her, sharp in a tailored black suit, his gray eyes locked on hers. The room buzzed with soft chatter from family and friends, but for them, it was just the two of them. The officiant's voice rang out, steady and warm. "Do you, Grayson Pierce, take Claire Dawson to be your wife?" Grayson smiled, his hand tightening around hers. "I do," he said, clear and certain. "And do you, Claire Dawson, take Grayson Pierce to be your husband?" Claire's voice trembled with joy. "I do." They exchanged rings, the simple diamond from that night in the penthouse, now joined by a band of gold on her finger, a matching one on his. The crowd erupted in applause as they kissed, a soft, lingering moment that sealed their vows. Evelyn Pierce dabbed her eyes with a handkerchief, beaming from the front row beside the Reeds, who clutched each other's hands. their lost daughter finally home. The reception followed in the estate's sprawling garden, white tents glowing under the afternoon sun, tables laden with flowers and food. Claire leaned against Grayson as they danced, her head resting on his chest. "I can't believe this is real," she murmured, the music swirling around them. He tilted her chin up, brushing a kiss across her lips. "It's real," he said. "You're mine, and I'm yours." She smiled, the weight of her old life gone, replaced by a lightness she'd never known. The Reeds approached, Mrs. Reed pulling Claire into a hug. "You're so beautiful," she said, tears shining in her eyes. "We've missed so much, but we're here now." Mr. Reed nodded, clapping Grayson on the shoulder. "You're a good man," he said. "Take care of her." The months flew by, and soon the penthouse echoed with new sounds. Claire sat on the sofa one crisp morning, cradling two tiny bundles, their soft coos filling the air. Grayson knelt beside her, his face lit with awe as he touched a small hand. Twins, a boy and a girl, their dark hair a mirror of Claire's, their gray eyes a gift from him. Evelyn bustled in, carrying a tray of blankets, her voice bright. "My grandchildren," she exclaimed, setting the tray down to scoop up the girl. "What are their names?" Claire glanced at Grayson, smiling. "Lucas and Stella," she said. Evelyn beamed. "Perfect." The Reeds arrived next, their arms full of gifts, their joy spilling over. Mrs. Reed sat beside Claire, stroking Stella's cheek. "You've given us everything," she said softly. "A family again." Claire leaned into her, the warmth of her real mother a balm after years of Janice's coldness. Grayson watched them, his chest swelling with pride. He'd promised Claire a future, and now it stretched out before them, bright and whole. Life settled into a new rhythm. Grayson worked from home more, his office door always open so he could hear the twins' laughter. Claire rested, her strength returning, but she couldn't stay still forever. One evening, as they sat together on the balcony, the city twinkling below, she turned to him. "I want to go back to med school," she said, her voice steady. "It's my dream, to save lives like I saved yours." Grayson took her hand, his eyes warm. "Then you will," he said. "I'll make it happen. After the twins are older, you'll finish what you started. I'll be with you every step." She smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. "You're too good to me," she said. He chuckled, wrapping an arm around her. "Never," he replied. "You deserve it all." They sat in comfortable silence, the stars above mirroring the ones in their little family. Janice and Vanessa faded into memory, their shadows no longer reaching Claire. Janice had slunk away after her hospital outburst, her schemes exposed, while Vanessa vanished from Riverside, her name erased from the Reeds' lives. The Pierce estate became a hub of love, Evelyn and the Reeds visiting often, filling the halls with stories and laughter. One sunny afternoon they gathered in the garden, Lucas and Stella crawling on a blanket as Claire snapped photos. Grayson joined her, pulling her close. "Look at us," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "From that rainy night to this," she nodded, tears prickling her eyes. "I was so lost," she said. "You found me." He kissed her forehead. "We found each other," he corrected. As the twins grew, Claire and Grayson built a life rooted in trust. He surprised her one day with a stack of papers, enrollment forms for Riverside University's med school. "You're in," he said, grinning. "Classes start next fall." Claire threw her arms around him, laughing through tears. "You didn't have to," she said. He hugged her back. "I wanted to," he replied. "Your dreams are mine too." She pulled back, looking into his eyes, seeing the man who changed everything. "Thank you," she whispered, and he just held her, the future unfolding. The years ahead promised more, a home filled with love, a career for Claire saving lives, and Grayson by her side, their twins growing strong. Riverside, once a city of struggle for her, now glowed with possibility. Sometimes love finds you in the rain, through the chaos, the pain. "It shines," Grayson said one night, echoing a thought that had carried them here. Claire nodded, resting against him on the penthouse sofa, the twins asleep nearby. "It found us," she said, her voice soft but sure. Their story wasn't just about them anymore. It was a testament to resilience, to finding light in the darkest corners. Claire and Grayson prove that no matter where you start, true love builds its own empire, one built on trust, sacrifice, and hope. As the city hummed below, they sat together, a family forged in the storm, now basking in the calm. Lucas stirred, letting out a tiny giggle, and Stella followed, their voices a sweet chorus. Claire laughed, Grayson joining in, their happiness complete. What's your favorite part of their journey? Tell me below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that warm your heart. Claire and Grayson's tale reminds us that love doesn't care about where you've been, only where you're going. Their rainy days turned into a lifetime of new beginnings, a legacy of strength and devotion. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time with another story to make you believe in love all over again.